You've probably noticed over the years, and I've told you many times on these video reports, and I am not one of these guys that when I win a few days, I'm going to get on here and shout from the top of the mountaintops, hey, I've won a play. Make sure you get my next latest winning selection. No, I talk more about losers than I do winners because, listen, as a gambler, as a handicapper, and a guy that's been doing this for way too long, I know the reality. And the reality is that every winning streak down the road is going to be followed by a losing streak. That's real life. If you want to be BS'd, go someplace else. Listen, if you want to fall for these guys out there in this industry who have never lost for the last 17 years, that turn these phenomenal profits that make you wonder if they also have those winning lottery tickets in Nigeria that you're getting those emails about that, oh, by the way, if you put up $10,000 that they'll forward you $1 million in return. You know those scams. Yeah, they're all the same guys, I believe. It's just not real. The fact is, winning and losing go hand in hand if you're going to do this on a consistent basis. That's reality. That's all I deal with. And listen, I went through a period, matter of fact, a week ago Sunday, I went through a period going into last Sunday where, for a 4-week period, I could not tell you how many different ways I could possibly lose a game. I'd lost my touch. Now, was I doing anything different than the 7 weeks prior to that 4-week period where I simply couldn't lose, where I was winning 6 out of 7 days, 5 out of 7 days, for a 7-week period that started with the NBA playoffs and had a wonderful run in baseball as well included? Nope, wasn't doing a damn thing different. But as I always like to say, that as a gambler, you are going to be benefiting and at the same time often victimized by the same streaks, both positive and negative, that are affecting the individual players and the teams that you are betting money on. Because it's sports, and nobody is successful all the time, and nobody fails all the time. It's a series of streaks, both positive and negative. So again, don't ever fall for all the hype. I mean, my God, gamblers don't necessarily have the word sucker, imprinted on their foreheads. Although sometimes I wonder, some guys out there, my God, what do you guys fall for? Do you really fall for all the hype and all the BS? I don't get it. So anyway, going into last Sunday, it just seemingly I couldn't find a way to string 2 winners together. Since then, I haven't lost. 6 straight top-rated 15-dime releases in 6 days, and I've won every single one of them. I had no right to win last night's play on the Phillies, but they came back and they won. Am I doing anything different than I was doing the previous 3 weeks? Nope, nothing. It's just one of those things. And you don't question why. You don't wonder why. You don't question why. You just say, thank you, and you move on. But that's the reason that you gotta love baseball betting. This isn't the NFL or college football, where if you lose Saturday and Sunday, you have very few opportunities to get your money back. And a lot of guys will say, well, hold it out. They play football 5 days a week. Yeah, they do. But the difference is that the greatest opportunity for you to make money in football is when you have a huge card. Because as I always like to tell you, I like to concentrate the most where the odds makers concentrate the least. And to do so, you've got to have a massive card. It's easy to find that select group of games that you're going to find the bad numbers on a monster Saturday college football card or on a full Sunday slate. It's a hell of a lot harder on a Monday night game when those odds and that number is right pared down with no extra fat. It's so much tougher on a Wednesday night Mid-American Conference or Conference USA game when often, yes, it's a 50-50 betting opportunity, but you're dealing with teams that you really don't know that much about. Far easier when you're dealing with the weekend games. Baseball? No. You have the repetitiveness, you have the patterns that develop, you have the frequency. You don't even get that in the NBA. Yes, you've got teams playing 4 times a week, but you often have those teams playing back-to-back. You have to factor in the travel. You have to factor in the different opponents. It's not the same. Baseball affords you that opportunity. So I've got your complimentary play coming up here in just a moment, but first let's talk a little history, because in this day in 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed a bill that really changed the way seniors got by, because he signed a little bill into law called Medicare, and it took place. This is your history trivia lesson combined here. Once again, in case Alex Trebek asks you on Jeopardy, you are going to be prepared. He signed the bill at the Harry S. Truman Library in Independence, Missouri, where the former president was awarded the very first Medicare card in this country. Why? Because he was the first one to propose a national insurance plan back in 1945, something that was opposed by Congress back in that era. Now, there is absolutely no truth to the rumor that our current president, Donald Trump, actually opposed Medicare back then because he was only 1 year old at the time. Bump, bump, bump. Next, in 1945, the U.S. Indianapolis was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine. Now, the USS Indianapolis was returning from a secretive mission in which its crew didn't even know what it was doing, because it had delivered crucial parts for the atomic bombs that were eventually dropped on Hiroshima in World War II. And it was returning for a training mission that was going to be held in the islands off of the Philippines when it was attacked. The ship sank within the first hour after being torpedoed by a Japanese submarine. 300 sailors perished in that first hour. Over 800 of the remaining crew were jettisoned into the waters, shark-infested waters. No distress signal went out. Of course, this was a top secret mission, so nobody knew the crew was in the water. What happened was that only 316 crew members out of that original crew of 1,200 survived. The final survivors were not plucked from the water until 5 days later, if you ever saw the movie Jaws. History books can tell you so much about this, but I'm telling you, when you see Robert Shaw's character, Quint, sitting there and telling that story as he was a member of the Indianapolis crew in that story in Jaws, and you probably remember that scene when he's telling Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider about his experiences, that was chilling. That's the first time I heard it as a kid, watching that movie, but that was chilling. In 1966, the Troggs reached #1 with that song Wild Thing. They were not the first group to actually record it, however. It was actually recorded first in 1965 by an American group. Oh, God, what the hell were they called? The Wild Ones, but they covered it in 1966. They were a UK band. Quick, who wrote the song? A guy by the name of Chip Taylor, whose real name was actually James Voight. He was the brother of actor John Voight, which makes him the uncle of Angelina Jolie. There you go for trivia. It remained #1 for 2 weeks, replacing that infamous song that you all love, Hanky Panky by Tommy James and the Shondells. It was dethroned by Summer in the City by the Lovin' Spoonful, and who was the lead singer for the Lovin' Spoonful? John Sebastian, who in 1977, I guess it was, had the big #1 hit with this theme song from Welcome Back, Kotter. Welcome Back, right? Anyway, I was looking at the charts. I wanted to see what song dethroned Wild Thing, which every time I hear Wild Thing, I keep thinking of Ricky Vaughn from the Major League movie. I wanted to see what song actually dethroned Summer in the City, and it got me thinking about it because I looked at the charts from 1966, and there were some great songs in 1966, and I wanted to see, well, what was the #1 chart-topping tune in 1966? Now, these are the songs that were #1 at one time or another in 1966. The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. Not bad, right? You're My Soul and Inspiration, The Righteous Brothers. Monday, Monday by the Mamas and the Papas. When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge. Paperback Writer by that little group, the Beatles. Strangers in the Night by Frank. You Can't Hurry Love by the Supremes. The Last Train to Clarksville and I'm a Believer, both #1 for a single week by the Monkees, who had benefited from the TV show debut, right? Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. Yeah, they were all number one. Who had the number one song the longest that year? A 5-week run at the top of the charts. The Ballad of the Green Berets by Barry Sadler. Number one single of the year. A 5-week run. Go figure. What can I tell you? I wasn't around, can't tell you. Born on this day in 1947, I always find this kind of interesting. Some days you look at history and you find this collection of artists or athletes that were all born on the same day. What was going on? Anyway, born on this day in 1947, the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Also born on this day, Hilary Swank. Great actress. Born on this day, director-producer Richard Linklater, who, hey, listen, Dazed and Confused, just one of the all-time great movies, period. You can have all the sunrise, sunset movies. You can have Boyhood, Dazed and Confused. There is no man that captured an era for a movie better than he did. Peter Bogdanovich, not one of my favorite directors, but Peter Bogdanovich, born this day as well. And topping them all, as far as I'm concerned, Christopher Nolan. It's so funny. My son and I, just 2 days ago, he just went to see Dunkirk. And I told him, yeah, I want to go see Dunkirk as well. And he was shocked. And this is my son. We go see tons of movies together. And he said he was surprised that I wanted to go see Dunkirk. And I said, yeah, I want to go see Dunkirk. I said to my son, I said, have you ever seen Saving Private Ryan? And he looked at me. He heard of the movie. He said, never seen it. I told him, I said, you got to go see Saving Private Ryan. That's the movie you have to see. Dunkirk, Saving Private Ryan. Okay? I haven't even seen Dunkirk yet, but I'm going to just tell you, Saving Private Ryan is better. But then we started talking about Christopher Nolan, and we agreed. He liked Interstellar, loved The Dark Knight, the Batman trilogy, and we both agreed that The Dark Knight Rises was the best of that, even better than the second film with Heath Ledger and the Joker, just personal opinion. Both hated The Man of Steel. Both liked The Prestige, and I told him, I said, but I thought that the most underrated of the films that Christopher Nolan did was the 2000 film, the first one that I really, and most people ever realized who Christopher Nolan was, the 2000 film, Memento. Remember Memento? Starring Guy Pearce. Now, obviously, I can't say anything about the film, and if you've seen the film, you know exactly why. But Memento with Guy Pearce in 2000, just a great film, I thought. But anyway, there's your little history today. And we move on to your complimentary play. I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers and what maybe, potentially, could be Justin Verlander's last start in a Tigers uniform. They're a $1.20 home dog today against the Houston Astros. Has Verlander pitched well? No, he hasn't. His last two starts, both against Kansas City at home and away, he didn't pitch poorly, worked 7 innings in each of those starts, gave up a total of 5 runs, and struck out 17 batters along the way. His fastball, I was reading a story here in one of I think it was ESPN here recently, his fastball velocity is still good. He's still got his power pitch. Problem is, it's his off-speed stuff where he's not spotting it consistently this season. And that's really what's gotten him into trouble. But the Tigers have lost each of his last 5 starts. This is a problem. But the real reason I'm going with the Tigers today, they did take yesterday's second game in the series after losing Friday's opener, is that I just don't like the way Lance McCullers is pitching. He came off the disabled list in the middle of June. In his first start back at Seattle, he pitched well. He looked like the Lance McCullers Jr. who was dominant early in the season. In that first start at Seattle, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run allowed, 8 strikeouts, no walks. In his 4 subsequent starts, the first 3 of which I lost, 2 as a best bet and 1 as a complimentary play, he has not looked like the same pitcher. The Astros have lost all 4 of those starts. And in those starts, he's allowed 20 runs in 18 2/3 innings. He's allowed 30 hits, and he's walked 10 batters. Again, this is not the guy we saw before he went on the DL. I don't know what the problem is. But until he resembles that guy who came out of the gates like gangbusters, I say go against him. And maybe Verlander pumped up in what potentially could be his final Tigers start. Why not take a shot with Detroit in this one? Plus, the Astros, who have just been phenomenal on the road, have lost 2 of their last 3 road games. So I'm going to go once again with Detroit as the slight home dog in this spot today as your complimentary play. That'll do it, guys. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow when we do this one more time.